Hello, here's Vinicius Garmatz again. I work as a design and architect for IBM Maximo. And today we are going to review really behind the scenes what you can do with the new inspection module out of the box. So in a previous video, I presented how it looked like to implement the inspection process as part of the inventory receiving application of Maximo. And today we are going really behind the scenes on what is actually required to achieve that result. So quickly, how things works behind the scenes on the new inspection module. We have the manage inspection forms application that we won't really be touching in any point for these implementation. But then we have the conduct and inspection application where we are going to create like a pane inspection to be executed. So essentially, in order to plan for that inspection, we are going to consume a record from the inspection form object. And in order to execute that inspection, we are going to create a pane inspection in the inspection result object. Behind the scenes, essentially, we added really three configurations to base Maximo. So the first one is actually in the PO application. The PO line object received a new attribute for us to plan for that inspection form with a new table domain that is actually fetching data from the inspection form object. And then a conditional UI really to make that new attribute required when the inspection required flag is checked based on the inventory item that you were acquiring as part of that PO. So let's take a look in Maximo. So first thing, application designer, I created really two cloned applications to not really disrupt the original ones. The first one is actually PO. And in the PO line section, what I did was simply, in the PO line section, what I did was simply to add a new attribute as part of my PO line object, which is actually fetching the form name from my inspection form. It has a go-to application to the inspector supervisor, so you can see how that form looks like. And more than that, I really created a conditional property. So every time that the toggle that came from the item is set to have an inspection required, I'm also making these new attributes required. As you could see, I also have an attribute, and this attribute have a lookup. So essentially, I created a lookup in Maximo and a domain to fetch data from that lookup that is associated to this new attribute in the database configuration. So PO line, let me search for that attribute. So inspection form is the one that I added for this POC. It simply have a domain, which is a table domain that again is fetching in my database the inspection forms that I have where the type have receiving on its domain, as well as to search only for active forms. In other words, only the forms that I can use. Being a table domain, I also had to set up the attributes that I'm going to receive from this domain in order to have that working on the PO application. So a quick look on the PO application again, similar to what I did before. Let me create a new PO, acquire some bearings from SKF. A PO line, a new row, the item is a bearing. And the bearing from the inventory definition requires inspection. Central. Then based on that table domain, I have my forms that are coming from my manual inspection form. And this is really the one that I'm going to use for this receipt. So once the PO is approved, now I can go ahead and do this receiving. So in the receiving application, 07, if I select ordered items, you see the one that I ordered here. And once I save, actually behind the scenes, I have a script that is triggered based on this save, on this math-hack-trans object. And every time that I have a receipt that is waiting for inspection, I'm actually creating a pending inspection record in my inspection result object. And really behind the scenes, this is a relationship that is fetching that inspection result ID from my inspection result object. So let's take a look quickly on this automation script. This script that I created is really to create a receiving in my inspection result object. So basically I'm fetching the form number from my PO line. I'm checking what is the latest active revision of my form. And then if it doesn't exist yet in my inspection result, I'm actually creating a new one. And you will notice that the design for the inspection result object is quite generic. So I have a reference object and a reference object ID. So my object in this case is math-hack-trans. And the math-hack-trans is actually the ID that I'm going to use to link as well as to establish this relationship with the pending inspection. So the launch point, as you could see, is quite simple. It's an object script that is being triggered every time that I have a receipt that is waiting for inspection. So before saving, I'm actually running that script to create a pending inspection result. So again, application designer. So let's take a look on the receiving app. And again, what I did here was simply to have a new attribute and a new relationship to that particular inspection result that got created by the automation script. And with that, I can use the go-to menu to launch the conduct an inspection application and report that particular inspection result. So once again, let's go back to the receiving application, 1107 as far as I remember. And I can use the go-to application to launch that conduct an inspection application on that pending inspection record that I have to execute for this receiving. And since I defined my form contained instructions, I can start this inspection and really report that inspection result. Just before I complete the inspection, another thing that I implemented was really another script simply to validate by the moment I change this inspection status from waiting to for waiting inspection for something else. It's actually validating if that inspection record is completed. So in this case, it's not completed yet. This is part of the script. And once I complete this inspection, then I can come back and change this inspection status to complete and continue with my receiving process. So getting back to the deck, the second implementation point was the receiving application point, the receiving application. And every time that I have a receipt with waiting for inspection, I have a relationship as well as an automation script to create that pending record. And then the third implementation point that I did, also using scripts, was really the receiving application. And every time that I do a change on my inspection status, I have another script that is actually checking if the inspection result was completed and preventing the receiving from being completed in case the inspection was not completed as well. So once again, automation script. Let's take a look on this other script. Not this one. Validate. So again, it's another script that is launched on the attribute in this case. So every time that I change my status, before change the status, I'm validating. And the validation is as simple as this. So if the status is not waiting for inspection, in other words, I'm changing this inspection status from waiting for inspection to something else, I'm going back to my inspection result, getting its status, and if the status is actually not completed, I have a message being presented to the end user. So that was pretty much it that I have to share in this recording. All the artifacts, the detailed information on the relationships that got created, as well as the source code for these automation scripts, are published in our asset management wiki. You can find those there. If you have any difficulty or need some help, just let me know, and I'll be glad to help you implementing this. Thank you very much for watching this. See you. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.